Hey everyone, we've got the NBA Finals wrap up to wrap up. Among a couple of other topics we're going to get into, including a little bit of World Cup, but nothing about the soccer, of course, and a little bit of nonsense from Major League Baseball. Stay tuned. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the latest episode of the Sports Ballers Podcast. My name is Eric, and I am joined by Corey Puffett and Evan Ash. As always, before we even start with the how are you doing, Evan, are you tired?
A little tired, yes.
Are you hungry?
Also a little hungry, but
we're ready to start the show. Yeah, let's go.
We're in peak form.
Yes, we are right where we want to be. Evan is irritable. Corey is chilling. What's going on, Corey? How you doing?
I'm doing all right.
All right, that's pretty typical. I'm doing pretty good too. So, we have the NBA Finals to discuss. There were two games since our last show. Evan, did you watch either of these games?
No, I did not.
You were a little busy. At least for one of them, you were at a roller coaster event this weekend.
Yes.
But I don't remember.
I don't even know when the games were. When was Game 4?
Well, Game 5 was on Saturday. Game 4, I believe, was on Wednesday.
Yes.
So, but Game 4 was the game of the series.
Oh, yeah.
Because it featured the biggest comeback in NBA playoff history. The New York Knickerbockers.
Was it NBA playoff history?
Yes.
I knew it was NBA Finals history.
Playoff history, yes. We're down 29 in the third quarter and won the game by 1 point on an OG Anunoby putback after Jalen Brunson fired up a long three, fell short. Anunoby crashed the boards, nobody guarded him, and he tapped it in for the win. So,
wow.
Unbelievable.
It was ridiculous, and I'm glad I stuck with the game because I'm sure a lot of people tuned out.
Yeah.
You know, the game starts at 8:30, really 8:45, and
Which, I mean, it could be worse because it used to start at 9 until one of the few things that Adam Silver has done right in the past several years is moving the start time a little bit earlier to 8:30, but it's a late evening.
yeah, and so a lot of people checked out of the game. The Spurs were up, I think, 27 at the half.
Yes.
And then early in the third quarter, their success continued.
Mm-hmm.
And then something happened. And that's something, the most notable turning point was Victor Wembanyama picked up a flagrant foul after inadvertently hitting Karl Anthony Towns in the chops. But, you know, still can't do it. Anybody gets hit in the mouth with an elbow, it's got to be called. So that is how that went, and that seemed like that was the momentum the Knicks needed, I guess, because they rode that the rest of the way. The Spurs scored 30 points in the second half of that game. Like,
Putrid.
Unbelievable. Like, if you score 15 points in a quarter, that is a disaster quarter that you expect to cost you pretty much every basketball game ever.
And they averaged that for two straight
They did
quarters.
It twice, yeah. So, just a complete offensive meltdown after being lights out from three for the Spurs. And the Knicks, I mean, we talked about this. They've done this all postseason, just plugging away. They're not afraid of the moment. They're consistently playing from behind, and they just walk people down. And
yeah, I mean, Brunson said it during the post game of Game 5. They just didn't show up until 9 p.m. every night. They apparently didn't get the memo that Adam Silver moved the start time earlier. But once they did show up, like, they were there. They came back in every single game. Even the one game that they lost, Game 3, it was a narrow margin, and they were way behind early in that game.
Well, and they fell behind in that game, but they took a lead.
Right.
So
they were down by double digits in all 5 games of the finals.
Yeah, and not once did the Spurs hold that lead.
No.
Only in Game 3 were they able to rally in the third quarter and get the lead back and hold it. But the rest of the way, yeah, it was consistently Spurs come out hot, and Knicks just weathered the storm and used all of their veteran ability and composure, or whatever you want to call it, clutchness from Jalen Brunson for most of the games. OG Anunoby obviously being very clutch, and the Spurs just did not have the fortitude to withstand that. Like, they just consistently buckled under pressure. Victor Wembanyama seemed to wear down both physically and mentally late in these games. De'Aaron Fox, my goodness. Like I
we got to talk about De'Aaron Fox and Mike Brown.
Yes, and that's a nice little subplot to this story, but I first want to talk about the Knicks and just the impressive, not just run in the playoffs, but this sort of thing they've been building for the last 3 or 4 years, where it started with when they signed Jalen Brunson to a pretty much a sweetheart deal. Like when he first signed with the Knicks, he was, even by the standard, was underpaid, and the standard being what he had done in Dallas, which was he was a pretty good player in Dallas. Like everybody saw that he was too good to be in the shadow of Luka Doncic, so he deserved to be basically the starting point guard or the lead guard of his own team, and that he would probably be a pretty darn good player. And so he goes to the Knicks, and he becomes an all-star, and then now for a third straight year, second-team All-NBA selection, and had also earned a reputation of being extremely clutch, which carried over from Dallas, because even in his more limited role there, he was big for them, especially early in the 2022 playoff run that the Mavericks had, where Luka was injured, and Brunson stepped up and carried the day for a few of those games in the first round. So, he showed himself to be this type of player. Dallas somehow didn't match the offer that New York gave him, which was still not particularly big, and the Knicks upped his pay, but Brunson has taken less money. He left $113 million on the table.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, a lot of money.
And credit to Brunson for that. Obviously, there's going to be some kickback for him because he just won a championship for the Knicks, but credit the Knicks as well for actually taking advantage of the fact that their star player was leaving money on the table, because that allowed them to build a really compelling starting lineup.
Yeah, which, James Dolan is not necessarily the guy that you expect is guaranteed to do that. So, credit where it is due.
Well, James Dolan, fortunately, is not he's not the general manager. He's just a jackass owner.
But he still makes the final decision on signing the checks,
yeah,
right?
sure.
So, but credit to him for actually letting the basketball people handle the basketball stuff, other than his apparently kind of weird speech going into the playoffs about giving up a bunch of stuff for 10 weeks, including sex.
He's a weird guy.
Very weird guy.
We
saw that in Game 4.
And he has a vision.
Game 3. Game 3.
He's the guy that's responsible for the Sphere in Vegas and things like that. So he's out there a little bit. He's got different ideas. He's a little bit of a hippie, also kind of just a strange guy, and generally not very well liked in New York. But he got out of the way enough to make this happen. And again, let's talk about, again, Karl-Anthony Towns was traded for.
Yes.
Like the Minnesota Timberwolves traded him away for Julius Randle and White Dante DiVincenzo back in 2020, in the 2024 offseason. So this is Karl's second year. And he was critical for them all postseason. He was great. We talked about the first 2 games. Kind of faded down the stretch of this series, but without him, they don't go up 2-0.
No.
Which means we could still be having a series right now. We might have moved
this
show.
Yeah, we could be playing Game 6 as we're talking right now.
Yeah, so
we're getting ready to.
So he was pivotal. They traded 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges, which is a massive overpay.
5 first-round picks?
5. Cinco.
Okay, that's...
We would be talking about how
Rams would be
boneheaded this organization is right now if they had not won this finals. But you win a finals, and it makes everything worth it.
And Mikal Bridges was important to them winning this championship. Like, he was one of their best players in Game 2, where they only won. That was Brunson's worst game of the series, and they won it anyway because everybody else stepped up.
Yeah.
And they signed Josh Hart, or traded for him with the Trailblazers. And they traded for OG Anunoby. They were the one team that finally said, hey, the Toronto Raptors for years said, you're going to have to give us a king's ransom for this guy because we know how valuable he is. On any championship team, he would be an immediate fit. And the Knicks said, all right, well, we'll do it. And they coughed up whatever they needed to get Masai Ujiri to trade OG Anunoby. And he ended up being, through 4 games, he was the finals MVP.
Oh, yeah. If Brunson had not taken over Game 5 the way that he did, OG was the guy at that point. Yeah, especially after that tip-in to win Game 4.
Yeah, he was incredible, and he was in all the ways that we knew he could be and would be, playing for a legit championship contender. And so, there's a lot that went into this. Everything kind of had to go right, but they went for it. Like, this was sort of an organic, we build this team around what we have. We take advantage of a star player who is better than his contract, right? Jalen Brunson, obviously. And we take advantage of the fact that Josh Hart, for some reason, is available for cheap because he's stuck on a crummy franchise, and so he lost a little bit of value. So he goes to the Knicks and becomes one of their most important glue guys. Like, they pushed all the buttons right here, and that's why they're champions.
Yeah, I mean, I think that over the past few years, especially coming out of last year's Eastern Conference Finals loss to the Pacers, the talk has been Jalen Brunson cannot be the number one on a championship team. And I think that through NBA history, a player of Jalen Brunson's caliber and size has historically not been able to be the number one option on a championship team. But I think that what a lot of people failed to take into consideration was the sheer amount by which he was being underpaid and how that allows you to build around him. And he was the number one guy on this team for sure, but the number 2, 3, 4, 5 guys were not like way back, like way down the order. It wasn't Brunson and then like 3 blank tiers and then your number 2, 3, and 4 guys. Like, they were all pretty close to each other in level, in terms of talent level. And when you have that, it can make all the difference. You don't have to have the overpowering number one guy. This is only the 3rd NBA Finals champion in NBA history, all of NBA history, to not have a single vote getter in the MVP race. Not one player on this team earned a vote in the MVP this year. That's never happened before. It happened twice before. It was the Bullets back in the 70s, and it was some random Celtics team back in like the late 60s. I think it was like 67, 68 or something around that time. That's it. Every other NBA champion ever has had somebody getting MVP votes, if not the MVP on their team.
Well, and I think that this, not just because of what happened this year, but what's been happening recently in the NBA, I think it makes sense to reassess what a championship team looks like, because we're in an era of unprecedented parity in the NBA. This is our 8th different champion in 8 years.
Yeah.
And beyond, like, the lengthiest stretch, there was an 8-year stretch from, I think, 1973 to 1980 where it was 7 out of 8. Right? The only repeat winner was the Boston Celtics in that stretch.
Of course.
Yes, of course, the Boston Celtics. But even in that stretch, the teams that made the finals, there were only 10 finalists. Like, the Washington Bullets made 3 finals in that stretch. Yeah, that's right. The Washington Bullets made 3 finals in that stretch. The Sixers were there multiple times. The Lakers were there multiple times. The Knicks made it that they were the first in that run, and that was also their second championship in recent history. Like, they won in 1970 as well. So this is different now because we've had 13 different finalists in 8 years. We've only had 3 teams get back to the finals. The Boston Celtics made it in 2022 and 2024.
Yep.
The Miami Heat in the bubble in 2020 and in 2023.
Yep.
And the Golden State Warriors in 2019 and then again in 2022. Everybody else has been there's been new faces across the board. It's different. It's a different sport right now with how teams build, with the weird CBA, with the second.
I mean, last year we saw this, we saw a different type of build with the Thunder. This was a very young team, still a very young team that had all been together basically their whole time in the NBA for the most part. And they grew and developed very quickly into a championship caliber team, and they capitalized on that.
Didn't the Thunder build their team by tanking? But like the Knicks, did they go about it that way?
I don't think they did it like in the way that the 76ers tried their trust the process period. I don't think it was like that.
It wasn't as deliberate as that, but there are a ton of high lottery picks on the Oklahoma City Thunder. Chet Holmgren was a high, but they traded for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and he was also part of the trade that got them all those picks from the Clippers when they moved Paul George to them. and in the Kawhi Leonard sweepstakes or whatever back in 2019.
Yeah, imagine getting Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and a bunch of picks.
Yeah, and
for playoff P.
Yeah, well, nobody knew Shai Gilgeous-Alexander would become one of the best players in the league, but they also got a bunch of picks, and they drafted Jalen Williams with one of those picks. They drafted several players, key members of their team, Lou Dort, who
but I think that's
that's
something else that's also worth talking about is the way that you evaluate talent once it's in the NBA. I think it's really hard to evaluate a lot of talent at the collegiate and high school level as far as you can see if they're good or not, obviously, but you can't necessarily see what their drive is, how far they're willing to go to become great at that point. But you can see a lot of that in the early days of their NBA career, I think. And being able to identify that is going to be huge because you have guys who are not obvious contenders to become superstars. Nikola Jokic was not known to have the ability to become what he's become. He was a very late draft pick. Jalen Brunson was a late second round draft pick. You have some incredible players who become incredible mostly because of their drive. Like you look at Jalen Brunson, he's just such a hard worker. Like that's how he got to where he is. Obviously he has a lot of talent, but he's also very undersized. Mm-hmm. And he's made it work for him.
Nikola Jokic, just to remind everybody, was drafted during a Taco Bell Quesarito ad.
Yes.
That is NBA history. It's a fun fact. And yes, Jalen Brunson was a second-round pick, but again, drafted by a different team. So, Evan, to answer your question, no, the Knicks did not do any tanking. Like, none of their players, none of their starting five were originally Knicks. Mm-hmm. Which, some in other sports you might say, oh, well, you bought your team. There's a salary cap in basketball. That doesn't really apply here. But, it was just we had opportunities to get this player, that player, the other player, and we built this team together. And, again, Game 5, Jalen Brunson took over. Like, it was the Jalen Brunson game that we were kind of waiting for. And it's why he won Finals MVP because, maybe game to game he might not have been their best player, but
he was the best guy over the course of the series, and he was by far the best night on the deciding night of the finals.
The game when the trophy's in the building?
Yes, yep. And the only player on that team that could have done what he did was him. Mm-hmm. Like, as good as OG Anunoby is and was in this series, as good as Karl Anthony Towns can be, Jalen Brunson's the only guy that could say, the offense isn't working, but I'm working and I'm putting up 45 tonight. And so, there's, again...
that ties the record for the most points in a deciding game in NBA Finals history, right?
Set the record.
I think it tied Michael Jordan. I think Michael Jordan had 45 in a game.
He had a lot of closeout wins.
He was pretty good.
But
when that's the list, you're in pretty good company.
And I think it's worth reevaluating sometimes, because Jalen Brunson's profile as a player is... I guess the criticism you would have of him would be somebody would say he's a floor raiser because he's going to consistently be able to get up shots. But is he a ceiling raiser because he's not always the most efficient and he's not the best playmaker in the world for teammates and things like that? But in a game where it's a rock fight, damn it, I want the guy that's going to get shots up. Like, even if he doesn't knock down 60% of his shots, like, a prime Kevin Durant or something like that, he's going to create opportunities to actually put the ball in the hoop. It's called basketball. And when you're playing a team like the Spurs, and we'll kill them in a second because they deserve to get fried for this series, you're playing a team that is notoriously great on defense and a little shaky on offense. You're going to have to win games by just having one guy cook. And that's what they did in Game 5. They wouldn't have won that game without Brunson performing like that. And he deserves the flowers for what he did because he was great.
So apparently that did not actually tie the record. They got that wrong on the broadcast.
They said it like 17 times.
45 points is not right. Giannis Antetokounmpo scored 50.
He scored 50 in the finals.
In Game 6, the winning game against the Suns.
Did they caveat it like saying he's a guard? Because I feel like they threw guard in there.
Maybe they did. I don't remember them doing that, but maybe. If they did, then obviously there's...
Kind of silly at that point, but, whatever. Yeah. But hey, still a great performance from him.
Because apparently Bob Pettit,
yep.
He also scored 50 points in a.
Well, he was also very good.
Yeah.
And he played in the 50s. So
Yes.
that's a long time
Were
ago.
black people allowed to play back
Yes,
then?
they were.
Okay.
Yes, they were at that point. Not when George Mikan played in his early days, but when Bob Pettit was playing, there were black people in the NBA.
This guy.
Yeah. So
Could somebody please explain to me how the Spurs were leading all of these games?
They led for 72% of the NBA Finals.
And
72%, and they won 1 out of
20%.
5 games. Yes, they won 20% of the games.
right, what in the world happened? Right, like
There's an imbalance here.
yeah, I would check my phone in between rides these last 2 weekends, and it'd be like, oh, Spurs up big, in the fourth quarter, and then I check my phone again. It's like, oh, Spurs lose.
I think somebody on Twitter, or maybe it was just a meme that I saw, I think it said it best. The Spurs knew how to take the lead. They didn't know how to hold the lead.
yes, and this is with Jerry and Larry featured in the picture because that was a very well-known Seinfeld bit. If you've seen the show, I highly recommend it. Where Jerry was admonishing the rental car lady for, as he shows up to pick up his car, and the lady says, "We don't have it," and Jerry says, "But I made a reservation." She was like, "I know." It's like, and he was like, "Yeah, but where's the car then?" And she was like, "Oh, it's not here." And it's like, "But the reservation keeps the car here." And the lady says, "I know what a reservation is." And Jerry goes, "I don't think you do. If you did, I would have a car." You know how to take the reservation. You just don't know how to hold the reservation. And holding's really the key part here. So, but I thought about this, basically since Game 4, when it was basically inevitable the Knicks were going to win this series, that there's 3 obvious people to blame, and the 3 people make sense just even if you don't know anything about basketball. You can typically blame the coach, you can blame the team's best player, and you can blame the team's highest paid player. And those are 3 different people here. Like, Mitch Johnson was atrocious. Not just in this series, he was bad in the Thunder series too.
Yeah.
He got away with it.
Yeah.
And then De'Aaron Fox is the highest paid player on the team. He is on his Supermax kicks in this coming season. They got 4 years of that, and he is at the lowest value he's ever going to have, hopefully, for them.
Oh my god!
So people are talking about, oh, you got to trade him. Good luck.
Trade him to the Wizards.
Yeah, no,
they'll take the
no.
deal.
Leave the Wizards out of it. We got the top pick. We got
Wizards
AJ
are trying to
Devonta.
keep their good vibes here.
Yeah,
What with the Wizards? Since when they have good vibes?
Since they got the
got
number one pick.
Oh, okay.
Got to stick with that.
We were sure that they were going to end up with the 5th pick.
I
So that was the worst that they could have
counting on
gotten.
that they were going to get the 5th pick. It was a 50-50 shot too. Oh
I
my
thought
God.
it was more like a 99% chance.
Well, yeah, but like the actual math
Yes.
was like 52-48. But so yeah, and then of course Victor Wembanyama, the team's best player, we lauded his performance in the conference finals. He's got to wear this too, because it wasn't just the fact that the team lost, the team kept blowing leads, historic leads at times. It was also he had moments where he blew it, where he made critical mistakes. In Game 2, like the Knicks took a pretty sizable lead in the second half of that game. They went up 14, and they started choking a little bit in that game. Like Brunson went cold. I think that was his worst game of the series. He shot like 7 of 25 from the field, which, for those who don't watch basketball, that's terrible. And that's how they kind of got back in the game there. And then the Spurs tie it up. There's like less than 20 seconds left, and Wembanyama starts dribbling the ball up the floor, and he tries to pass the ball to somebody whose back is turned, throws it off of Stephon Castle's back. Brunson picks up the loose ball, and then to add insult to injury, Wembanyama runs up and trucks Jalen Brunson. So Brunson just gets to stroll to the free throw line and make one free throw to give the Knicks the lead, and that was the deciding point in the game. And then in Game 4, where they blew the big lead, Wemby missed 2 free throws. Wemby couldn't do anything in the second half of that game. He got up after he induced a flagrant foul, by Mitchell Robinson, because he was annoying him. So Mitchell Robinson hit him in the face with an elbow, and he's taunting him, saying he's in your head. But yeah, that's great. But then you shot 4 of 21 after that.
Oh,
That's
and you're
ugly
7
stuff.
feet tall.
Yeah, you're 7'5".
7'5".
How are you? And again, I looked at his numbers. His true shooting percentage was comparable to Jalen Brunson's. Jalen Brunson's a 1.5 feet shorter than you. that shouldn't be possible. Like, it makes sense for a 6'2 guard who struggled the first 2.5 or so games of the series to have a little bit of a rough efficiency game. There's never any excuse for somebody that tall who plays that close to the basket, presumably, to not have a better scoring output than that. It was just, you saw it immediately that Wembanyama at 22, he doesn't have a go-to move. He doesn't have something where it's just like, get me an easy bucket because we're floundering out here.
Yeah. It also seems like he doesn't have, like, I don't want to say like mental toughness, but like the ability to keep it together in critical situations.
And I think some of that is, like, I think that's fair. I think some of that is youth. He's still a very young guy. And I think Shaq made a really good point after Game 5 on Inside the NBA. He said that Wemby's got to get stronger.
I mean, he needs to add some size. I think it's more important that he ups his endurance because he got gassed. Like, and again, this is the first lengthy playoff run that this team has had, and it seems like
tall guys are more prone to getting tired.
And he's got a lot of responsibility on the defensive end, and he tries to do everything on that end because he's great at it.
He got all 5 blocks, or at least 4 of his 5 blocks in Game 5 within the first 3 or 4 minutes of the game.
Yeah, he was a machine for 15 minutes, and then he wore down. Like, that's the bigger thing. And again, yes, there is...
Sounds like a conditioning thing then,
yes,
right?
Absolutely.
He needs to run some laps
Get
or
on
something.
the treadmill, yes. That's a real thing here.
And I think he also just needs to continue to up his basketball IQ. I think that there were a few low IQ plays that he made, and we know that he's an incredibly intelligent person, but I think he's still learning how to play the NBA game.
I mean, he's 22 in year 3.
Yeah.
And he's playing in the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
Like, he's ahead of schedule. The Spurs were ahead of schedule this year.
Very
There's
much
no doubt
so,
about
yeah.
it. But it also felt like if they had been able to, clean up some of the cataclysmic errors that they made.
They had a living and breathing coach on the sideline.
Again, Mitch Johnson, rough series for him.
Who in the world is Mitch Johnson?
He's whoever Greg Popovich deemed to be his successor.
Oh,
I feel like I would have rather had Greg Popovich coaching. If Greg Popovich was coaching, I'm pretty sure the Spurs win. But
there's a good chance.
But
the Spurs also have a lot to be really excited about going forward. Not only is Victor Wembanyama still incredibly young and has a very bright future in front of him, but you had a couple of other young guys really step up this year. It's Stephon Castle, who's a year younger than Wemby. You had Dylan Harper, who's 2 years younger than Wemby, who both made sizable impacts on this series in very positive ways. Castle was excellent. Harper was coming off the bench primarily and seemed a little bit upset about his playing time over the course of the finals, which is understandable because he was great when he was on the floor.
Well, and who was playing in his stead? De'Aaron Fox. So,
all the more reason for him to be frustrated.
Let's make an adjustment.
Yeah,
right?
but those two guys are they're going to be superstars, I think.
Oh yeah,
especially Harper. I think Harper has a very high trajectory in his future, but Stephon Castle was great as well. And this, I know that there have been examples of all-time greats making it to an NBA Finals early in their career and then never making it again. And I've seen those headlines about, what if this is it for Victor? I don't buy that. Not with this team, not with the talent that is around him. With most of those other players, they didn't have this kind of talent around them, or the talent they had around them was old and was going to be out of the NBA or just was kind of on the downward slope of their career trajectory. That's not the case. This team is on the rise. This is probably the worst version of the Spurs we're going to see for at least the next 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Corey. I think it's worth pointing out that there's no guarantees.
Well, no, I'm not making guarantees.
Right?
I'm not saying that. And as Eric pointed out just a few minutes ago, we're in an era of unprecedented parity across the NBA where new teams are making it to the finals for both conferences every year, and we've had very few repeats. Just not the Wizards.
The Wizards still can't do anything.
But the opportunity is going to be there. And I think it's way too early to start, calling the doomsday timer on this team. If we get 4 years from now, if we're in 2030 and the Spurs haven't made it back, at that point you can start ringing the alarm bells and you can start talking about what a wasted opportunity this team was.
Well, I mean,
but I don't see that being the case. I think that I would say there's a 50-50 shot that they make at least 2 finals in the next 5 years.
I mean, I agree with that completely. Like this is clearly the best team in the Western Conference going forward, and you've got a guy who, if he didn't emerge as the best player in the world, is not too far from that, and he's 22. And you've got 2 excellent lottery pick players in Stephon Castle and Dylan Harper, who are even younger than Wembanyama, and they contributed greatly to this team's run. I mean, Stephon Castle had Jalen Brunson in prison.
Oh, yeah.
And really it was game 4 where Brunson finally started getting cooking because Castle got into foul trouble. Like, that was a huge factor in the game. But they've got a De'Aaron Fox problem. And they've got to figure out either because I know he got injured in this postseason. He rolled an ankle, but the lack of decision-making by him was disastrous.
Yeah, he's supposed to be the veteran guy.
Yeah, he's in year 9 compared to guys who are in year 1, 2, and 3 for the most part.
And he's making those kinds of mental errors. And, just to come back to what I wanted to bring up earlier about Mike Brown, like, he was fired by the Kings specifically for calling out De'Aaron Fox making boneheaded plays on the floor.
Ooh.
Ownership didn't like that. They sided with De'Aaron Fox. They said, Mike Brown, you're out of here. And several years later, now here we got De'Aaron Fox essentially playing for Mike Brown again because he helped hand that championship to the Knicks.
They're making De'Aaron Fox Knicks jerseys. Like, they're printing them. It's a real thing.
Love it.
It's like John Starks for the Rockets when the Knicks lost in 1994 because he was just ridiculously bad.
You like a good vindication story, especially for a coach who's as likable as Mike Brown is to me. I really like the guy, and I feel like he's been kind of shafted a few times over the course of his coaching career.
Well, Mike Brown 2 months ago was looking at his 5th firing. Like, if the Knicks had lost that series to the Hawks when they went down 2-1, they looked like they were in a lot of trouble. If they lose that series, Brown gets canned because they had just fired Tom Thibodeau.
Yep.
They bring in Mike Brown, and they're going backwards. You can't keep the coach at that point. Instead, Mike Brown's going to the Hall of Fame. He just won a championship for the New York Knicks in the year 2026.
First title in 53 years for that organization.
Since Phil Jackson played for the Knicks, and Phil Jackson is ancient.
Yes, Phil Jackson has been fired by the Knicks subsequently.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's an incredible feat for him. Again, 2-time Coach of the Year, led the Cavs to the finals as their head coach. Obviously, he had LeBron James. That helps. But how did that team win? That team won because they had LeBron James and they played great defense. Like, they had one guy run the offense, basically, and then that's what Mike Brown does. He is a defensive wizard when it comes to, the game of basketball. It's just not for the Wizards. But, he was great there. He got fired because that was a last-ditch effort for Cleveland to try to keep LeBron before he made his decision. And then he got hired by the Lakers, and Kobe didn't like him, so he got fired there. He got rehired by the Cavs in their lost years for the 2013 and 2014 seasons, and then LeBron came back, so they had to fire him again. And so then he ended up glued to Steve Kerr's bench in Golden State, took over for Golden State when Kerr had to step aside due to back injuries or his spinal fluid issue, which sounds terrible.
Yeah.
And he coached that team, again, that loaded team, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, to an undefeated record while he was coaching them during the playoffs. So he won a ring as an assistant there. He stayed with the Warriors through 2022, where they won a championship because of their defense and Steph Curry. And then he gets an opportunity with the Kings, wins Coach of the Year there, takes them to the playoffs for the first time since 2006, and then gets fired because he talked some smack about De'Aaron Fox, who absolutely deserved it. And now he's an NBA champion, and he's going to the Hall of Fame. So it's fantastic. And I couldn't have it to a better guy, too. Mike Brown is a really, like Corey said, a very likable guy, and has been around, has paid his dues for sure, put up with some crap that he probably didn't deserve. And he's at the mountaintop now, so shout out to him.
Yeah.
This is his first year with the Knicks?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they just fired Tom Thibodeau after their Eastern Conference Finals loss last year.
I thought Tom Thibodeau was still the coach.
Nope. They got rid of him.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I mean, that was a pretty big story. I think we talked about it on this.
Well, and we talked about the fact that Thibodeau got fired in large part because he ruffled feathers in the locker room. And mostly, from the Thibodeau side of the story is he tried to get the Knicks to play better defense. And Karl-Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson, we've talked about this, not really well known for their defense. Well, they played excellent defense this playoff.
Part of the reason why they made this run is because they actually played pretty good defense through each of their series, and even in this series when they really needed to. You talk about Jalen Brunson taking over the game offensively, but they also had to stop the Spurs on the other side. And yes, a lot of the Spurs' ineptitude, their 30 points in the second half of Game 5, was on them, but some of it was also on the Knicks locking them up.
Yeah, you have to credit the Knicks for the way they play defense. I mean, the Spurs held the Knicks below the Spurs standard during the regular season. Like, they outperformed their own excellent defense against the Knicks offense. Like, if the only thing that mattered was how well did the Spurs defend the Knicks, the Spurs are champions because they absolutely befuddled that team
in 4 games
for
probably
basically the entire series. The reason the Knicks won was because they held down that Spurs offense the entire time. Mm-hmm. Like, every game was a rock fight.
Yep.
It's as if defense wins championships.
It kind of tends to help. So
a lot of people inspired by this Knicks title, including the New York Jets.
I don't know what
who
this
are
means.
On a 57-year title drought currently.
That is true.
And a lot of their players talking about how much inspiration they're drawing from their NBA city brethren. And
might need to draw some talent.
You need to draw some talent, but you're also like, I thought the headline was so funny when I saw it on ESPN because there's an article about this specifically, an entire article dedicated to the Jets being motivated by this title run by the Knicks on ESPN. And
have the Yankees won like 12 championships since the last Jets championship?
The Knicks won their first title in 53 years, yes. But they've been knocking on the door for a couple years now. Like, they've been competitive for a few years.
The Jets
they didn't just come out of nowhere this year the Jets have not made the playoffs in 15 years.
Yeah.
15 years they haven't made the playoffs.
And you just need to be, like, barely in the top half of the conference.
Or at least now you do.
Yeah.
But, yeah, like, they have been pathetic.
The Knicks were favored
for almost half of our lives. For almost half of our lives.
The Knicks were favored to win the East at the start of the season because of what they had done. And, of course, because of what happened with the Pacers and Tyrese Halliburton's injury, Jason Tatum's injury. Everybody said, this is the Knicks' year. They got to cash in on this opportunity. They cashed in. There's no cashing in for the Jets.
No, so if Geno Smith, if Breece Hall, if any of these guys want to take inspiration from the Knicks, cool. You're going to have to find a way to bottle that up and keep it for a lot longer than this Knicks title is actually going to keep the city enthralled, because it's going to take you several years to even sniff the playoffs from where you're at right now.
I would say there's a much better chance that the Knicks win a championship.
I think there's a better chance that the Knicks win 3 more titles before the next Jets playoff appearance.
That's a pretty.
That's a big one. Yeah. That's a big one, but it's primarily an indictment on the Jets. That's how I feel about that.
They could luck into a good quarterback in the draft, and like some.
Did you say lock in or luck in?
Luck.
Okay.
They could luck into a good quarterback in the draft with one of their top picks.
Okay.
If that ever happened.
They kind of lucked into one with Geno Smith, except that they couldn't get Geno Smith to play well. Geno Smith had to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Geno Smith had to go somewhere else to play quarterback and be decent.
Okay.
Yeah, like 3 different spots. Like, he was backing up Eli Manning.
They could get lucky, and some other team could deal with horrible injuries and a couple funny bounces, and they could
like maybe Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold, who the Jets drafted, lucked into and couldn't get him to play well. But then he goes to Carolina and plays pretty decently, and then he goes to
it was the 49ers.
He didn't play decent in Carolina.
He did play decently in Carolina.
When?
For 6 games, he was like one of the top fantasy quarterbacks in Carolina. He went to San Francisco, but he barely got any playing time there. Then he goes to Minnesota, takes Minnesota to a 15-2 record or 14-3 record where they finished second in their division. Mm-hmm. And then he goes to Seattle and he wins the Super Bowl.
We just turned this into a Jets hate fest.
We did, and I love it.
I think what I think is worth pointing out is that even hopeless teams can win, right? Looking at Indiana football being national champions, that happened, right? Did we forget?
Dominance champions.
Yeah, they rolled to a championship. Now the New York Knicks winning a championship, they were hopeless too, right? Like there's so many Knicks fans, and they just never won anything ever. I'm looking at my beloved Baltimore Orioles, who are also hopeless, and it's only been 43 years instead of 53. But if IU football and the New York Knicks can win a championship, then anything is possible.
I like the IU football one. That's true.
That one is
except that
they were the worst team in the history of the sport for 150 years.
And then for some reason, their administration decided, you know what we're going to do in this new NIL era is we're going to outspend everybody.
Well,
and it worked.
Huge alumni base.
And
right?
it worked.
What's the point of having an alumni base if you don't?
They bought their championship in a way that would put George Steinbrenner to shame.
Well, and Kurt Signetti also understood that maybe having older players might help. As a team of 23-year-olds playing a bunch of teenagers.
That's true, too.
It kind of makes a difference.
Another quarterback the Jets drafted who I think would have been excellent anywhere else? Christian Hackenberg.
No, you don't believe that.
No.
You don't.
I think we can just,
Yeah,
the
right.
first syllable of his last name is all we need to know.
Yeah, it's appropriate. Yeah. So last thought here. Since I like to think about stuff like this, we know that 4 years ago the NBA did their 75th anniversary team, and they added 25 new players, 26 because they had a tie. Ridiculous. So there's 24 spots available in 20 or so years. And so a lot of players that got quote-unquote snubbed are like, well, I'll get in next time. I'm like, no, you won't. Like,
There's going to be many great players that play in the NBA.
It's been
over
4 years, and there's already 7 names ahead of anybody that got left out the previous time. Those include Nikola Jokic, Jason Tatum are clearly going to be in. Mm-hmm. And now you've got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. You probably have Anthony Edwards. You definitely have Jalen Brunson in there.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's extensive. It's filling up quick. And so if you're Klay
Victor
Thompson...
Wembanyama's going to be there.
Yeah, Victor Wembanyama is obviously going to be included as well. So those spots do fill up quick. So sorry, guys. Good luck. But all right, let's move on.
Giannis was already on that team, right?
Yeah, he was placed in. Jokic was like the last guy that wasn't quite there. And of course, Luka Doncic as well. He's going to
get it, so.
Yep.
What are the Mavericks doing? Right? They traded away Luka and Jalen Brunson.
And let Jalen Brunson walk.
Oh, they didn't even trade him. They just
he was a restricted free agent, and the Knicks made him an offer that again was below market value, and the Mavericks refused to match it.
Yeah,
that's all they had to do was match that offer, and Brunson would have stayed with the Mavs.
Was this the same GM that made these two moves? Oh,
yes,
goodness
same
gracious.
guy, Nico Harrison. He is currently unemployed.
Yeah.
They let him stick around for like 10 games into this season.
They let him stick around for at least a year too long.
Well, because I don't know. I have no idea. Maybe they believed in his idea that Luka was too fat. And then they watched Luka dominate like the first 2 weeks of the season. All right, this guy's got to go.
Luka was the scoring leader of the NBA this year, right?
Yeah, he was great. Yeah, he led the league in scoring. He's 5-time first-team All-NBA. They said, we don't want this guy.
Oh my
Unbelievable.
God. Oh my God.
They didn't even get anything for him. They got old Anthony Davis, and they got like 1 first-round pick. Mikal Bridges got 5. Again, like
just unbelievable stuff.
Shipped 5 picks across the Brooklyn Bridge for Mikal Bridges, but Luka Doncic gets you 1. Ridiculous. But all right, so we got a couple more topics to get to, and we spent a lot of time on basketball. But
as we should. Gotta wrap it up.
The World Cup is happening.
It is.
I've watched entirely too much soccer. I watched actually like 5 or 6 of these games.
I thought you were going to say 5 or 6 minutes.
No, I've watched
that would have been entirely too much.
I've watched a lot of the soccer, and I still don't know what's going on. But I know the United States beat Paraguay 4-1. That was pretty thorough ass kicking. I think Germany crushed Curacao 7-1 because Curaçao's kind of the 16 seed of the tournament. But Corey, you had this idea to put this on here, so tell us what you want to talk about.
So I just find it interesting the sponsorship aspect of these stadiums. So FIFA, we're in all these different stadiums across the United States, Canada, and Mexico.
Yep.
And most of these stadiums, particularly in the United States, they have sponsors. Like, they're named for their sponsor. That's something that we do here. I don't know if that's something that they do in Europe, where a lot of, like, nobody has ever said, like, it's just Tottenham Stadium. Like,
no idea.
right? Like, I don't think it's sponsored as far as I know. But so if the sponsor of a stadium is not a FIFA sponsor, which in most cases it's not for these football stadiums, they have to cover all the logos, anything that has that sponsor's logo on it. And I just love that Levi's Stadium, Levi leaned in so heavily to this. Not only did they cut the cloth to cover the Levi logo on their stadium perfectly to match the shape of the logo, but if you go to their social media accounts, such as on Twitter, you'll see that their logo is just it's the covered logo now. It doesn't even say Levi on it anymore. They've leaned so far into this that FIFA is essentially sponsoring Levi's in a way. They're making their brand even more recognizable in an odd way. So I love it. I think that's hilarious. I'm not somebody who typically sides with corporations. Only FIFA could do this to me, where I am now singing Levi's praise and like, oh yeah, stick it to them, corporate sponsors.
Yeah. Great.
So I love that. But I mean, other than that, there's not really a lot positive to say about the World Cup right now. Like, you have just some really horrible situations for some of these teams. Iran was playing they played their opening match in SoFi Stadium.
Yep.
Just outside LA. And they were supposed to have their training camp facility be in Arizona. All 3 of their group stage matches are in the United States. So
it was Arizona.
No, I know.
Problem?
But I said was supposed to be in Arizona.
Okay.
For whatever reason, just a few days before they started the World Cup, they decided to move them to Guadalajara, Mexico. So they have to fly back and forth. Okay, you have almost a week between most of your matches in the group stage. You have that recovery time. So you should be able, you should have a couple days to fly there, train, fly back, whatever. No, they're being told that you have to leave as soon as your match ends to go back to Mexico. And for those of you who aren't aware, you run a lot of miles in a soccer game. And believe it or not, being on a flight thousands of feet in the air, not great for recovery. It's actually pretty freaking horrible for recovery.
Yeah, it's why a lot of football players, when they're dealing with injuries, travel by bus. You've heard about that happening a lot because they're not supposed to go on flights.
Yeah, so they're being forced to leave immediately to go back to Mexico. And then they're also being told you can't come into the country for your next match until the day before the day of your match. So you have to fly in last minute, and now you got to play a game with plane legs under you, which, again, getting off of a plane, you typically are not at your best physically at that point.
Can confirm.
You can confirm, and you're not even a professional athlete.
I'm not even an athlete.
You're just walking around at an amusement park.
Yeah, the business end of Evan's day is sitting on a train.
Right. And it still affects him. So just we've seen a world-renowned referee from, I believe it was Somalia, not allowed to enter the United States to referee in this World Cup, sent back to Somalia because apparently he's a terrorist. But the only people being denied entry are people with more melanin in their skin than Eric or I have.
That should tell you something, but I don't know what.
It should. It certainly should.
I mean, I agree with all of that.
It smells like a duck and it quacks like a duck.
It's not not a great look. Again, obviously, there's a significant amount of geopolitical angst between the United States and Iran at the moment, which I'm sure is what led to this mistreatment of their soccer team. So I guess on a more positive note about the World Cup, the tourists are having a great time.
Oh, yeah. I do enjoy that.
Yeah, and that content has been great. And that's sort of the thing that reminds me, this place can be pretty cool. Like, we've got the ability to have a pretty cool little country here with all this weird stuff that we do. And sort of, we've got we have diversity here. Some people don't like that, but we do. And not just in terms of ethnicities. We have different cultures. We have different ways that, people act differently in Minnesota than they do even in Ohio, and they're both in the Midwest.
I think I might frame it a little bit differently than we can be pretty cool, because I think that a lot of the social media posting from tourists has been, I don't want to say it's been laughing at us, but
dude, those Japanese dudes loved Texas.
They're posting pictures of a Buc-ee's dude, this is a gas station.
Yeah.
Is it not a gas station?
Well,
it's
no.
Gigantic
but
gas station.
I don't think that they're saying, oh, this is so cool. I think they're saying oh, this is so bizarre. What is this place? Which is fine. I'm okay with leaning into us being weird. Just don't mix it for being cool.
Dude, those Scottish dudes were having so much fun at that Red Sox game. Come on now.
Yeah,
that
because
was cool.
It's weird. It's wild. It's not.
It's baseball,
it's not cool.
And it's awesome.
It's not cool. We're not cool. We're weird, and that's fine. Embrace that.
Then everybody's weird, because they do weird stuff over there too, and we love it. So that's been the best content so far. But
the German guy going to Waffle House at 1 in the morning. Yes. 10 out of 10 would recommend.
How did a German make it to Waffle House before I did?
That's what I want to know.
And you're contractually bound to go to Waffle House.
I am. Yes. It's going to happen.
Your name was in the Goblet of Fire. Yes. My goodness. And the Japanese dudes finding out about free unlimited chips and salsa at Mexican restaurants.
Oh, yeah.
It was spectacular as well. So,
and also, shout out to the Japanese fans for doing what they always do at the World Cup and cleaning up their section of MetLife Stadium after their team's match. And Jameis Winston joined them.
See, and this is also part of it. They do cool stuff like that.
Yeah.
We would think that's weird, but that's cool. They show up and just kind of show us what they're about. We show what we're about.
I can appreciate that.
We're not always about good things, but we have our moments. We can be better. We can be someplace that people like to come and explore and check out. We got a lot of turf here. We got a lot of different spots, and we can do this, guys. But we can't do it, shifting to Major League Baseball, if people continue to act like fools, and that has continued in baseball, specifically in San Francisco, where this is quite strange that this is an issue here. So for those who don't know, Major League Baseball teams, I believe 29 out of 30.
Yes.
There's still one holdout, the Texas Rangers. All of these teams have Pride Nights at some point in the month of June to celebrate the LGBTQ community. And I've been to a baseball game during Pride Night for the Orioles, and I did not get a jersey because I was too late. But I had a great time. It was a fun experience being in the crowd with a different crowd. This was not a typical baseball crowd, obviously. But some Giants players, again, San Francisco being very well known as, if you were to use a colloquialism, the gay capital of the United States, some of their players were not really thrilled about having to wear rainbow stylized hats, on their logos. So they opted to write Bible verses that were an affront to the statement of inclusion with Pride Night. And
some of the Bible verses were not necessarily overt. You could play dumb and be like, it's not really about that. It's just about my faith and everything. But I don't like when people try to gaslight me. And that's what they're doing when they make that comment, because you chose specifically to write those Bible verses on your hat
for this one
on
game.
Pride Nights, on this one game. You don't do that when you're wearing just your normal orange and black Giants hat. You're specifically choosing to write that on your cap for this night.
So what's different this night?
There's literally nothing different about this night except that you are celebrating and acknowledging the LGBTQ plus community.
Mm-hmm.
I get very frustrated with this entire line of thought where I'm just, expressing my faith. I'm like, okay, let me ask a question. Do you believe that people should feel loved and included? Do you believe in every human's dignity in this country? Because if the answer is no, okay, say it with your chest. Mm-hmm. But to sit there and say, well, my faith says this is bad. So what you're saying is, I would love for them to actually be able to be included and feel welcome here. But I got this thing. I got this little hang up that's completely outside my control. I can't do anything about it. It's just there's this thing about in this book that it says that I can't do this. So I prefer to be able to. I really would. I'm sorry, guys, but get the hell out of here, okay? Yeah, say it with your chest. If you don't like gay people, if you've got a problem with this community, then just say that, okay? Ain't nobody ever like, oh my God, I really want to believe that murder's okay. No, you believe murder's wrong because you're a normal person. That's the way it works. But the Bible told me it's wrong, but normally I'm cool with it. My instinct says no, but my faith says yes. No, that's nonsense. You hide behind your faith, and again,
if you don't fully buy into the things that you say your faith teaches, then that's not truly your faith.
And we are sitting in a Catholic school right now.
Also, if that's your faith today, like this, yes,
one time only.
Why is your faith come up today?
It's a recurring thing.
Not every single day. Just when there's rainbow hats.
Yeah, I don't have any respect for people who act that way. If you just came out and said, I don't like gay people, I think that I think it's a choice, and I think that it is a sinful choice, and yada yada. If you were to say that, I wouldn't want to have any association with you.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I wouldn't want to be around you, and I would be all for a company deciding that we don't want to employ you, or a team deciding we don't want you to play for us, or whatever consequences might come of it. But I would have a heck of a lot more respect for that than the BS that you feed us.
The faith argument is there so that people don't actually have to think about why they feel a certain way. Yep. Because then they would actually have to walk themselves through the logic of hating people who've done nothing wrong to you, who have
people you don't even know,
who are just different than you. And when you ultimately have to walk down that tightrope of logic, you come to the conclusion that maybe I'm just an asshole.
Yeah.
And it's a lot easier to say, God told me not to like these people, than to say, I'm an asshole. So, there you go. I just solved it for you right there. I held your hand like a little child and said, here's how you came to the conclusion that God told you not to like these people.
But see, the beautiful thing about that is that if you actually go down that path and think about it and come to the realization that maybe you're just the asshole, then you can also realize that while this community can't change this about themselves, it's not a choice, it's who they are, you can choose not to be an asshole anymore.
You could be better.
You can be better.
You could.
It's a beautiful thing. And it's honestly not that hard to do.
Even if
I think we've all been there in some way where we're an asshole about something in our lives, and when we realized it and we changed it, we realized,
different choice next time.
That actually wasn't that hard to not be an asshole anymore.
We'll try to do better the next time type of situation here.
Yeah, and you try to do better next time.
It's really okay. Like, it's really okay.
But sometimes you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
And I would say the vast majority of San Francisco Giants in that clubhouse are Christian, of some denomination. I would say a good chunk of those are devout Christians. Most of them manage to still treat people with respect and not make this all about them. Funny how that works. You're not a better Christian because you wrote a Bible verse on your hat to try to put down the message of LGBTQ pride. You're just kind of a dick. That's it. All right.
I don't have anything more to add to that.
I think that's fine.
I think that sums it up perfectly.
Well, thank you guys for tuning in. I know we got into some stuff this week, and I'm glad that we did, but we will be back next week, hopefully with more show, depending on people's schedules and if anything happens, because we are past the NBA season. We're kind of in the dog days. But before we get out of here, any shout-outs? Corey?
Yeah, so mine is a sad one. So Alden Smith passed away this weekend, and there's still some questions about the cause of death, and there's going to be an autopsy and a toxicology report and all that stuff, and the family wants to do a brain scan to see if CTE could have played a part in his death. But just a really sad story. I mean, he was such a talented player, obviously, for the 49ers, but the day that he died, he had been out delivering Little Caesars pizzas with a friend of his to a homeless shelter. So he was back in the community trying to do good. He was talking to, he was speaking to different groups of people about his experiences in the NFL. And, he's had a lot of personal struggles over the past several years since his playing career ended. But it really seemed like he was doing a lot of things to try and kind of put his life on track and figure some things out and stay involved with the sport in a positive way and give back to the community as little as he was really able to. So just it's really sad, and so I just wanted to bring him up on the show.
All right, Evan.
I will try to follow it up with went to a whole bunch of amusement parks again, shockingly. So shout out to all the workers at all these places out in Southern California. It was blazing hot, and the workers and ride operators were staying late and just pumping out trains, and they don't get appreciated enough, certainly in the paycheck realm, but just in general, thank y'all for making it possible for me to have such a great time again.
All right, well, I do not have any shout-outs this week, so we can wrap this show up. Thank you guys for tuning in. You can reach us at thesportsballers@gmail.com if you want to give us topic ideas or any feedback or just say hi. We don't care. We'd love to hear from you. You can also follow us on Twitter at SportsBallers18. You can get this podcast, I forgot to mention that part, on YouTube if you want to listen live, or you can get the recorded versions on Apple or Spotify. And if there's a podcatcher that you would prefer us to be on, let us know, and we will do our best to accommodate that. You can also follow us individually. Corey is at Corey Puffett. I am at Quagmire67, and Evan is at Evan_Ash13. As we smirk our way through the conclusion of the show due to more of this, I don't even want to call it childish humor, but humor of some type. But again, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back next week with whatever happens. We don't know, and that's the fun of it. Until then, take it easy.